When getting into fighting games and especially tag games, I think there's a lot of mistakes that beginners end up making just because they're new to the overall genre. This is something that you shouldn't be ashamed of or be mad at yourself because you are new and you are going to make mistakes along the way. But because I'm someone that's been playing fighting games for quite a few years now, and there's a lot of things that I've learned over the course of time, but only not having a lot of people to help me improve within the game, but also fighting a lot of things myself, I realized that there are key things that every beginner runs into when getting into a new fighting game for the first time, and especially when getting into a tag game. That's why I want to make a video to help you guys get a better understanding on where you could be cleaning up some aspects of your game and how to overall improve as a player at the beginner level. And to start, I think one of the main areas that a lot of players end up messing up on when first getting into a fighting game is focusing too heavy on the combos. Combos are a very important aspect of fighting games that a lot of players end up gravitating to because it's the most cool and exciting thing that players see when first getting into the genre. So I can't even fault you guys for getting so intertwined with this aspect of fighting games. But as a beginner, there are so many other things that you can focus on outside of trying to optimize your damage within combos, because overall one of the main issues that you guys are going to run into is trying to land those hits to get those combos off. So one of the main things that I always practice and preach when first getting into fighting games is to do the basics. Only do basic combos when first getting into until you get comfortable with playing your character in match and realize what moves and stuff that you can easily go for when the opportunity comes within match. And so with 2SKO, this is actually pretty easy as you have something that's easily accessible to you, which are auto combos through the post combo option. When at the champ select screen, you guys will see there's an option at the bottom called post combo. What you want to do is activate this, and you'll see that there'll be a purple icon at the top of your screen highlighted above both characters once you select them. Now once you got your character selected, all you have to do is literally go up to your opponent and mash one single button, and this will do a full combo for you without you having to learn anything. I think this is the best thing that a player can do when getting into fighting games for the first time, because it removes that level of mental stack from you about worrying if you're going to land your combo properly or not, when you don't have to worry about that at all. You just need to focus on getting the hit and improving at other aspects of your game. And what the great thing about these auto combos is that depending on which buttons you use, they actually go into supers to do some pretty significant damage, making them actually pretty strong options. This is something that you could also do with like your light auto combo, as this normally doesn't do a super. But if you mash all the way to the end, right, you get the ender, you can just mash medium or heavy to go into a super, and it works pretty well. Sometimes some supers don't work depending on which ones you do, because some of them require you to do certain things, but most of the time the auto combo system will allow you and lead you into the right way of what supers to go for. Now, say if you're someone that wants to somewhat graduate from this, then the next best thing I would tell you to do is go for the basic combo chain that everybody can go for, which is light, medium, heavy into down heavy, then light, medium, heavy in the air into their specials and ender, and that's how it goes. For Yasuo, you have to do S1, S1 into S2, and then for Aura, you have to do something a little similar. You just do S2 as the ender. Pretty simple and straightforward. But let's say that you end up getting flushed at mid-match. You get the launcher. Well, if you're too flushed, you can just end up mashing and just do what you was doing before with the auto combo. Auto combos allow you to pick up at any point of the string to actually get it off, and it's actually really helpful at any point in time. So definitely keep this in mind. It makes performing combos so much easier. To once you get a lot comfortable with the other aspects of the game, you can always come back into optimizing combos at any point. Next common mistake I see players run into is not using their assist. Assists are a vital part of tag games, and they are practically designed to be used for every aspect of them. And so with knowing this, I realized that players new to tag games tend to not notice or frequently forget to use their assists because they just aren't comfortable with the game that they're playing yet. If this is you, you're definitely hurting yourself in the long run, because everything about 2SKO revolves around the idea of you using your assists. But even with that said, and knowing the information now, you're probably wondering, well, when should I even use my assists? Assists can be used in many different aspects, such as extending pressure or combos. They also help you approach your opponent in neutral and lock them down. For extended combos, this tends to be the first step that people end up using in order to utilize their assists. This is because it leads them to getting bigger and better damage in their combos, which is always nice. Mind you, I was just mostly mashing my auto combo there to get that off. Another reason why you use assist to extend combo, because it allows you to link or combo off of attacks that normally don't grant you combos there, as well as it allows great corner carry, especially in the essence for a character like Vi. The same thing if it's set for like extending block string pressure. Assists are great here and it allows you to keep you on top of your opponent while also pretty much trying to call them out for either trying to escape from you or mash on your offense. You can also use your assist to approach your neutral, which is an aspect that I think a lot of new players fail to realize. And funny enough, it can drastically improve your performance if you implement it into your game plan. So for instance, let's say we have Echo right here, throwing out his normal when he's trying to advance to us in neutral. Well, what we can do when we have the space is call our assist to cover us and even punish him for trying to do something like that. We can even utilize our assist like I mentioned before, like say we want to jump in and try to make sure that we attack him. Well, if we think that we're going to have Echo, the Echo might counterattack us, we can also call assist to jump in and just block while we're jumping in when we call it. Last, you can use your assist to cover knockdown options. These are ways that basically allow people to get up in order to avoid your offense. But with your assist, you can actually cover quite a few of these things to keep your pressure up on them. Now, this is a little bit advanced, so you guys don't need to worry about this too much, but it's something that you should keep in mind and sometimes throw out if you feel confident about it. Now, there are different ways that opponents can get up and get out of pressure when being knocked down, but when using your assist, this would be able to cover a decent amount of options when getting them up, kind of restricting them on what they can and can't do, which basically in returns kind of makes it easier for you to predict what your opponents might go for. Speaking of knockdowns, a lot of new players don't vary their wake up options. This is something that a lot of new players end up autopiloting or not using at all because they just aren't aware of it or don't know how to take advantage of this. And because of this, it makes it very predictable for your opponent to figure out how they could essentially pressure you again and force you to block or cause you to take another combo, which is something that can end up being very frustrating for new players to get caught up in. But if you're new, varying your wake up options allows you to pretty much avoid all of this. So let's say Echo puts us into the situation where he's able to combo us after he throws and knocks us down. Where when doing this, he has to be able to predict when we'll do a wake up option and what wake up option will end up going for. So let's say he gets this knockdown right. We burst him off. He wasn't able to predict that. Let's say we do it again. We roll forward. We actually got this option as well. But let's say we roll in place. We're able to block, but we just have to hold his pressure when he goes forward. Same thing if we take backwards. We still have to stay here and hold this pressure. But all of in this instance, he has to guess which one we're going for to figure out how he can maintain his pressure on top of us, or we'll just be able to end up escaping anything that he does. I would say when using different wake up options, just be mindful of what you go for, as your rolls can end up getting thrown, as well as using like your get up attack, which is the big orb. If they call that out and block it, there's an easy punish and guaranteed combo for them, which is a position you don't want to end up being in. Another mistake beginners end up making is mashing on plus frames. This is a common mistake new players make, as you tend to not know when it is or isn't your turn to attack. This is mostly due to the lack of knowledge about plus and minus frames, but I know as new players you don't want to really worry about the numbers when learning a fighting game for the first time. Well, the good thing about Tour Scale is that there are recurring instances that let you know when your opponent is plus, which kind of gives you a general idea of when you should or shouldn't attack back. One of the easiest ones to identify is the universal plus frames that can be applied within 2SKO, and this is mostly through charge moves. Charge moves are indicated by the red flash that they are applied to the move that essentially lets you know that the fully charged is available, allowing to grant yourself plus frames, which you can easily see as you'll end up reacting first or recovering first before your opponent does. Universally, these are on heavy attacks, so jumping heavy attacks and standing heavy attacks. These is where you'll notice we see a lot of players go for them within their block strings to essentially overextend and take their turn back. But once you see this flash happens and it hits your guard, it is not your turn anymore. As you'll see, you'll actually get hit out of it if you try to take your turn back. This goes for the same instances as the jump heavy. If this hits you, it is not your turn. Stop mashing. Now you'll notice that after this, I'm actually able to dash cancel, which is something that is granted when doing charge heavies. It allows you to dash cancel out of them. Now keep in mind, there are some solo instances that your opponent might go for some slower buttons and you could be able to mash out on them. But to be on the safer side, if you ever see this red flash, just know it's not your turn. Just hold block and just kind of carry it out if you can. Also use some of your universal defensive options like push block to get them off you once you see a charge attack happens like that. You also notice that some characters have their own unique charge options that lead to plus frames as well. Like for Vi, she has her Ball Breaker that leads to plus frames if you fully charge that. Now in this move there isn't a red indicator, but there is another visual indicator present, like on her glove she emits smoke and you see electricity on her fist. Especially like a big gulf of it. This is how you know when plus frames are active on her move, and there are other visual indicators like that for other moves to let you know when it is or isn't your turn. Another great situation to know when it is or isn't your turn is when your opponent calls assist. Assist calls tend to keep your opponent safe, and a lot of times keep them at advantage depending on when they call it. This is something that you kind of got to get used to, and it's something that it's basically a timing thing that has to be visible. But a lot of times if you see your opponent use an assist at the end of a string, I would just say kind of block it out and just kind of wait their turn, because once their assist goes, they're being put on a cooldown, but the cooldown doesn't start to after the block string sequence ends, which means that once the assist is gone, it's gone, and it'll eventually be your turn once again. So just be on the lookout for that. Lastly, but certainly not least, one of the main things that I see players end up doing is bursting too late / holding on their burst too long. Your burst is a key resource that allows you to escape combos and pressure in order to avoid damage and losing in character and overall the entire match. But too many times have I seen players burst when it's too late, when they shouldn't have done it at all, or if they don't use it at all. This is because a lot of new players don't know when they should or shouldn't burst, and if I'm going to be honest, it's more of a situation that you honestly have to fill out and change each time of a match. At beginner ranks, a lot of times your opponents won't be really hunting for burst or trying to burst bait you. This is because this is more of an advanced technique that most players at the lower level don't know, so there's a lot of times where you kind of burst freely without having to have any worry at the beginner levels. For instance, bursting early in match tends to normally be fine to do, as over the course of the entire match you'll more than likely build another burst before it's completely over. Now when I say burst early, it's normally during the first character's life and no lower than them getting 50% HP. Just because bursting by this point should guarantee you another burst by the time the final round occurs if you aren't completely getting destroyed by the opponent. And also bursting at this point allows you to end up saving a character and even switching to your partner in order for them to heal in the background, keeping your team alive a lot longer. This is one of the main factors when it comes to tag games, which is keeping your team alive and healthy. Now I would say bad times to burst is when it's very late into a losing round and there's still another round to be played. This is normally bad because bursting this late means that you won't have any time left to build for another during that following round, which is more than likely going to be the final, which guarantees damage for your opponent on your entire team for a whole round. This is a very dangerous situation that you don't want to be in, and a lot of times can compromise you from winning a game, so be mindful of this. But overall, those are the top 5 mistakes that I think beginners end up making when playing tag games, and especially when getting into 2SKO. If you guys want to see more future 2SKO content, please leave it in a comment section below and let me know what you guys want to see. So I appreciate you guys for your love and support. Remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and always remember to believe in you that believes in yourself. I'll see you guys in the next one.